hunt on the ground. They do a lot of walking around, and they've got massive beaks. They can feed on snakes, lizards, beetles, a wide variety of different prey, baby birds. And that crowned lapwing who was nesting on the ground, or who does nest on the ground, is understandably quite cautious of these birds because it knows that they'll be able to eat its babies. Where are these animals? They were last somewhere up ahead of us here. I'm sure it won't be too long before we can get you a view. I just want to make sure I don't scare them. Where have you gone, ground hornbills? Now, somewhere up here, we should be getting a visual of them at any moment. They were just up ahead of us before you joined us. Like I said though, I'd rather take it a bit slowly rather than rushing in and chasing them off. That would be a small disaster. They can walk quite quickly through the vegetation, and I'm guessing that's what's happened. I haven't given them enough credit for the speed that they can move at. What a wonderful morning it's been on foot and on safari. I hope Pete has some luck tracking down those mating leopards on Arathusa. Now, the fact that these magpie shrikes are continuing to alarm call up ahead indicates to me that possibly the ground hornbills are already up ahead. There's a party of birds that I think is following them and mobbing them. When in doubt, scratch the head for a moment or two. And while we try and work out where these massive blackbirds have gone, we are going to send you back to James. I'm hoping we're going to get lucky.
So Scott Dyson is a fine athlete, but not quite as fine as the ground hornbills or as the hyena that just got up and ran away. The mother, who was on the top there, got up, went, whoa. The youngster went down into the hole, and she ran away at high speed. This one looks as confused as we do. I've got no idea why on earth she left. It's very strange. It seemed she got up and she looked over the top of the mound. I wonder if there isn't another predator in the area. The only thing that they would run from would be a lion. They wouldn't run from a leopard if it came through this area. Unless maybe the baby would be under threat from a leopard. Here's the other one going there. I'm just going to move. We're going to sneak a little bit forward and have a look around the side of the mound and see what's there. I wonder if it wasn't maybe the matriarch. They definitely heard something. She shot out and off at twice the speed that the ground hornbills or Scott Dyson could manage. So just before I move, actually, there's a wonderful thing to see up there. There's a oxpecker nest. Now, you've seen those birds sitting on the animals, eating the ticks off them, and they've got a nest there in the hole of that dead knobthorn tree. And you might just see that she's standing right at the entrance, he or she. And parental care is shared equally amongst Mr. and Mrs. Oxpecker, and they've got a number of hangers-on from previous clutches that will help out. Now you see, if we'd arrived here now, this den, we'd have no idea. That's called a red-billed oxpecker. Yeah, right, here come the other hyenas coming back now. We're going to stay here. I'm just going to ooze forward a little bit. Damon, we want to know if hyena cubs are at risk from other members of the clan. Damon, no, they aren't. If they're very low ranking, then maybe, but not really, no. Normally it's pretty safe from the rest of the clan. just going to stop here. I cannot make out anything through there. There were some unidentified lion tracks on the reserve yesterday. I wonder if a lioness hasn't perhaps come across here. The wind has started to come up from the southeast, which is behind the mound. Perhaps there's a scent of a lion on the air, and that's what the incredibly sensitive nose of the hyena picked up. Who knows? Did you like the way I used nose there, Brian? Quite clever, wasn't it? Yeah, thank you. Okay. We're going to just do a little loop around and look around the back of the mound there and see if we can't see what it was. It was incredible. She shot up, the baby shot down the hole and she disappeared. I don't know what happened. So we'll turn this aging vehicle around and go and see what's on the other side of the mound. Head there, Brian. Oh, fascinating question from Annie in British Columbia, Canada. Annie, you want to know, is it possible for a hyena to improve its status within the clan? Annie, the answer is not really. I mean, I think within reason, but I don't think that a low-ranking female could ever actually kind of accede to the throne of the matriarchy. They tend to have a very stratified hierarchy, and it doesn't change much at all. So, I suppose if the matriarch was to die without having left an heir, and they do leave an heir in very much the same way that human beings would leave an heir, I think it's quite possible then that a lower-ranking female might become a dominant female. Otherwise, no. For the males, the only way the males can only attain high rank. There's one of the hyenas sitting right there. So for the males, they will, retain the status of their mothers pretty much as within the male hierarchy, but if they leave the natal clan and they go off to another clan, like I say, they will become very low-ranking, but that will offer them the chance to mate and then leave a genetic legacy. It is the only species I know of in which that occurs. It is really the most fascinating social structure. Yeah, I don't know what went on there. Maybe she was just stung on the bottom by a wasp or something. We'll just sneak once more forward and see. Bill, another lovely question. I think you're also in British Columbia. Canada is definitely, obviously, suffering the effects of the winter and enjoying the warmth here in Africa that we are enjoying. We won't be enjoying it come 12 o'clock this afternoon, though, because it will be roughly the same as that at the heart of a neutron star. Bill, while we sit here and wait and see what's going on here, we want to know if disease plays a part in the life of a hyena. Bill, disease out here is a major thing for all animals, but because they've evolved in this area, and of course they don't have introduced diseases like human beings do. We've traveled diseases around the world, and I think that's one of the reasons we have so much more trouble with it. Disease in a hyena den, much as it's the same in anywhere else around in the wilderness areas, animals have coped. Animals have learned to cope with diseases, so they don't have outbreaks of disease like we do. Sometimes diseases are introduced from outside, so if the domestic animals come into contact with wild animals, sometimes diseases can be introduced, but normally, no, I wouldn't say the disease was a huge factor. The fact that they eat such rotten meat and that they're able to cope with their carcasses full with bacteria that you and I wouldn't go touch, let alone put in our mouths, I think indicates that they've got very powerful immune systems, definitely. So disease doesn't play a huge role in their lives. Remember, though, there is a constant and almost invisible evolutionary race going on all the time between little parasites tiny parasites. It might be viruses and bacteria and funguses and all sorts of fungi, and all sorts of things that develop in our bodies, in animals' bodies, in plants, and in flowers, and all sorts of things that we don't even know is going on. And parasite resistance apparently is one of the hugest drivers of evolutionary change. Disease resistance is a major thing amongst all species of animals and plants. So, good question, Bill. Thank you for that. I think we're going to pack up our attempt at trying to find out what's going on here at the hyena den. I can't see anything. I wonder if she didn't catch the scent on the wind of a lion. We'll go around that way slowly just now and see if we can't pick something up. But otherwise, we'll keep you posted. Scott Dyson is still running as fast as he can after the ground hornbills, and we'll get an update from him on whether he's managed to catch those turkeys. See you just now.
So we've just got another view of these ground hornbills. Come along, and you should be able to see it straight through that gap over there. There's a bit of a branch in the way. It looks like it's feeding on something though. And you can see the bright red head, I'm hoping. And there we go, there it is. Finally a ground hornbill. Who knows what it's snacking on? But let's try and get you some better views. I think there's some good cover where we can creep up on it. Let's go. And there's going to be a great little gap here. This is so cool. I have never shared the sighting of an African ground hornbill with anyone on foot. Where has it gone now? Now Russell in California would like to know, why is it that they are so endangered? Mainly because they've got a very slow nesting and mating ritual where they'll only give birth possibly once every 3 years, and they only give birth or lay one egg. Oh, there it goes. It's not hanging around, and I don't think Jean-Andre is going to be able to get you a shot. But at least you did get a glimpse of it, and we'll try and get you some more views, but we obviously don't want to disturb them. And before we send you away, I'd just like to finish off Russell's question. A lot of their habitat for nesting, cavities and trees, sadly gets cut down for firewood, or it's from burning too much. Oh, it looks like Jean-Andre might be getting another glimpse of it. Hopefully it's going to pop out into a little gap. There it goes. Awesome. You may be getting... Well done, Jean-Andre. Great work. Hard to tell whether that's a male or a female for me, but there are slightly kind of blue patches on that red gular patch that can sometimes indicate male from female, and they're usually about 4 or 5 within a flock, an alpha pair, and their offspring that will help them to raise future generations. Anyway, Russell, complex social structure, complex mating, and a very specific... Oh, it might be popping out again there, Jean-Andre. Have you got it? Looks like it might be. Well done. Awesome. We're going to carry on and try and work out what it was snacking on. I think it could have been dung beetles or something like that, digging through a pile of elephant dung. And we're going to send you off to Peter for an update.
All actually. Guys, I was just chatting with VM saying how awesome this actually is. You know, we're having a chuckle. Almost got frustrated earlier not being able to find these leopards because we know they're here. Again, we've got the tracks fresh. Got a few guys looked around. In fact, some of the game drives have left now, but we know that they're here. Sometimes you have these moments you think, I can't find the leopard. And you know what? It really isn't about finding the leopard. Obviously, finding the leopard is important and it's great fun and it's amazing to do so. And we might still do so any minute. But we just had a little stop. The best thing we can do at the moment is exactly what we're doing now, other than saying how's it and talking to you, is to just sit here. We know there's somewhere in this area. If you look just behind me, there's a nice view of what we always refer to as a drainage line, or the dry riverbed, or the dry gully, or the wash, whichever of those words you want to use. And quite possibly those leopards are in there somewhere. We've driven along a large stretch of it, but for now, because they are most likely mating leopards, the best thing we can do is just to sit here. We've got a bit of coffee with us, which is nice, The birds are singing. We've had one squirrel alarm calling, well, one earlier this side, which is why we came here. Didn't see anything. We had one just calling now, but not very, in that little thicket there that you can see. It wasn't a very sort of committed calling. It wasn't a squirrel saying leopard. It was a squirrel saying, I think I might have seen an eagle, I'm not sure, kind of thing. So for now, we're just going to sit here, enjoy nature, enjoy the bush around us, which is a very important part to do, and hoping that we can hear them. Keep in mind, mating leopard, when they do mate, they mate often. They mate sometimes for as long as a week, normally 3-4 days, anything like that. And they mate frequently. They can mate as many as 4 to 5 times an hour, depending on the intensity, sometimes a little bit less than that, once or twice an hour. So, sorry. Our best chance of actually finding them is just take it nice and easy, listen to the sounds around us, enjoy the birds, the cicadas. Can you hear that constant zzz, that constant buzz, very typically summer African sound, and just keep doing this. Looking around, you might just see a tail flick or of the shape of an animal, and there's also some impala in the area. Squirrels, francolins, impalas, they can help us find the leopard, and today, because these leopard are mating, we could actually have the leopard themselves making noise and then finding them. So we're going to do this. We'll see what else is happening. The hyena den obviously has been brilliant. Walk is fantastic. They might find something maybe very tricky to find, but maybe they can find one of these cicadas I'm talking about, these insects making this noise, and of course action in the tent. We're going to jump around a bit, see what's going on. We're going to stay here, still hoping to find this leopard, and always having a great time in Africa. We're going to go to James next. I think he's still with our hyena. Enjoy it.
Right, we've left the hyena den. Andrew, drone commander Francis, is just going to look over the back of the den with his drone and have a look and see if there wasn't perhaps a lurking lioness walking up through the bush there. And we're going to try and follow up on a herd of elephants that we've seen. Like I say, the heat is starting to build. Now, elephants do need to drink every day, and so what they may well do is come and drink at the 2 little water holes that we have here. We do pump a bit of water into them now and then, and that will keep, just keeps them going. They're like clean water elephants. They don't like that kind of grey, green, greasy stuff that some of the water holes have at this time of the year. And I'm sure you've seen from the air, while it looks extremely green where we're driving along now, when you look at it from the air, you can see how a lot of the grass is pretty sparsely distributed, and it looks a lot browner. And that's because we still haven't had some proper rains, and because of that, and a poor rainy season last year, the grass is kind of very sparse. It's been overgrazed a little bit, and so things are quite dry, and so we do need to keep a bit of water for the elephants and things. And now you can see immediately kind of the change of color, and you can see all the game paths that head to the water holes. Those will be largely made by elephants, but also by some of the other animals moving towards the water. Things like the impala will often use a game path, and buffalo as well. And you can see there that the grass is sparse. It's not quite as verdantly green as it looks when you are looking at it sort of horizontally from the vehicle camera, which I think is quite amazing. So back on board with us now, and we're driving through a drainage line system here. And drainage lines, we use the word quite a lot here. It's a dry stream that doesn't flow anymore. It might flow if there's a giant flash flood, but the chances of that are very small. From the sort of dryness of our drive, let's go across to the sauciness of some mating going on the bushwalk.
Well, this is certainly one very well-suited venue for the act that's going on. These 2 little weevil-like insects are in the throes of passion, right within this wild hibiscus flower. Oh, have they left? What was great to see was how the back of the the male who was mounted on top was covered in pollen, and it looks like they're coming back into the flower now, so you should be able to get some good views. Or what I can do is just tilt things slightly here. There we go. Sorry, Genre, if I took the flower out of your frame there. But look at how crazy that is. Dusted in pollen, as they themselves are creating their next generation with their own pollen. Not too sure why they've chosen to do it right in this hibiscus flower, but it certainly does make for a beautiful scene. While we're talking about it, I guess it's quite useful to see that this is kind of the male part of the flower and below is the female part of the flower. And great to see the different parts of the flower together with this mating pair of what look to me like weevils. I'm not sure what you guys think. Any bug experts out there that may be able to confirm what exactly these are, please let us know. And look at the little footprints they're leaving on the petals. I've just noticed that. Incredible. You wonder why there needs to be so much movement, but they obviously know what needs to be done here. And it appears like they are doing a great job at it. And Drew's just asked whether or not they are feeding. But I don't think they are, Drew. It doesn't look like it, although it does appear that the female below is frantically searching for something. What exactly that may be, I'm not sure, but they don't appear to be feeding on it at all. Oh, look at this, another one's arrived. Can you believe it? This is crazy. No ways. Just the perfect landing, slap bang into the flower. Now this is going to be interesting because I'm not sure what's going to happen next. But there may be a little bit of switching and swapping that goes on between these little insects. What's also great to see is that it's not just the yellow pollen on the backs of the mating pair, but the one that's just landed does also have those little white speckles. Now, a lot of insects may see in UV wavelengths, and the flowers give off UV wavelengths, so that may be a reason why they're attracted to this specific place for mating. Oh, the petal's crumbling in on itself there. Maybe they're going to draw the curtains here and continue in privacy. Ooh, okay, so they have detached from one another, and will the newcomer now get involved in the action? I'm guessing the female is the one at the base and the male is the one on the top. Could be wrong though. But let's see what happens next year. Gendre's arm is probably burning very deeply because he is keeping dead still, hardly breathing, in order to bring you these shots. So please do acknowledge that Gendre is in pain and suffering while we're enjoying these great views. Well, it seems like the passion has died down now, but they're still doing this strange kind of scrumpling technique on the petals. And I'm not too sure why. Now, if we look across at another petal over here, it's an older one. It appears to be all kind of wrapped up, and I'm going to try and look inside there and see if there's no eggs, or, maybe these weevils will lay eggs within this flower that they curl up to kind of create a larder of food for their offspring. Or maybe they simply, their mouth parts are too small to actually just take bites out of this petal, and maybe they are consuming tiny little portions of it that we can't actually see. So maybe they are eating, Drew. They certainly seem to be mouthing the petal as much as they can, but what exactly they are doing, I'm not too sure. You're going to have to do some research on these, unless, of course, any of you can provide us with some interesting info. Let me have a quick look in here. The one right in the center of the flower may be feeding on some pollen down there. Oh, this is so cool. Now they all appear to be going down into the base. Looks like the one's stuck down there. Well, this hibiscus sure is getting a lot of attention this morning, and it's probably not going to look nearly as pretty as it did when we arrived. At the rate they're going, it's already getting crumpled up into not the best looking flower. But maybe there's a method in these little weevils' madness, and I think there is. They're doing a great job in kind of rolling this each individual petal up. Well, Anne's just made a great comment saying that possibly this flower is an aphrodisiac, stimulating these little weevils into the throes of passion that we were so lucky to witness and share with them earlier. Timing is everything out here in nature, and I guess if we were just a few minutes late we wouldn't have seen that. But happy to even be just seeing this, because what's going on here is still very interesting, even though we don't know exactly what it is. Getting some great views. What I really loved was when that other individual just flew in and gate crashed the party. A table for two soon became a table for three. And now it looks like all three of them are going to dine on something right at the base there. No. Can you believe it? Okay. This is interesting. Now, what's happened here is the one that's now mounted, the smaller weevil, was the third individual to arrive. So that was the gate crasher. And the one that it's mounted was the one that was originally mounting the other weevil. So they're all taking turns and switching roles here in what's turning into be somewhat of a bonanza in this little hibiscus. Absolutely awesome. Okay, well, as wonderful as this is, we're probably going to start thinking of sending you off elsewhere, and we're going to continue on. Although, I've just spotted something else here, Jean-Andre. Let's see if we can get one last little bit of camera work out of Jean-Andre before his arm falls off. It's awesome. Oh, there's a spider, but it's very quick. It may have climbed up onto my arm. Where's it gone now? Sorry, Jean-Andre. Well, it's gone, and we are also going to start making our way off into a different area to see what's going on. I'm not too sure who we're going to send you across to just yet, but I'm sure somebody will be wanting to get you guys onto their vehicle, and it's Peter who's desperately urging you to join him.
Well, welcome back this side. It seems in the world of the bugs things are busy, and obviously lovely as well. Summertime, that's one of the beautiful things of summer is that you can literally stop and smell the flowers and often see things in them. So lovely to see. We've decided to move on slowly. Had a chat with Brent as well. He was also in the area looking around. We will come and look later again, I think this afternoon. Perhaps come and start here a little bit early and sit and listen again. And we're going to take one of my favorite drives back, which is up down. It's called the Marakene Donga. Marakene is the name of this little riverbed we're driving along. You can see we're going to turn into it just now. And Donga means, you know, again, that sort of riverbed or gully drainage line. So we're going to drive up that beautiful area. Very good sometimes to find buffalo in. Very good place to find ellies in. Very good place to find anything in, really. So enjoy the drive.
Syndrome, and he will be in a state of semi-frustration. And if you watch his trunk, he's smelling us very carefully. He's turning his trunk towards us all the time. This is not an animal you want to irritate, so we will treat him with due care and respect. But he is magnificent. And I'm always impressed by the size of elephant cows. But goodness gracious, when you come across something this size, there really is no comparison. You can also see him streaming from the temporal glands behind his eyes. That's a sign of stress. Doesn't necessarily mean that he's in must, but I think the must is bringing on a feeling of stress for him, and that's what's causing it. Let's move forward on the wall here. Might come down for a drink. Now, I was talking about the great grey, green, greasy water that we get here to steal Rudyard Kipling's line. But elephants don't normally like the dirty water, but this chap might come down for a drink here. Let's see. Classic example there of a male with his trunk hanging over his tusks. They often do that. Some more elephants here. Now, Maggie, all the way in Australia, you want to know about tusks, and if you found one in the bush, would you be allowed to keep it? Well, if you found one of this guy's tusks in the bush, Maggie, oh goodness, look at this. Please don't push that tree over, elephant. It's a magnificent tree that we like a great deal. Maggie, if it was one of his tusks, you wouldn't be able to pick it up, let alone take it home with you. He's having a snooze, is he? Yeah. Brian reckons he's going to sleep. It's quite possible. Ooh, look at that. Isn't that amazing? No. Sorry, everybody. I know it would be exciting to watch him push that tree over, but it's such a beautiful tree. It's been growing there for so long. There we go. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, Maggie, if you were to find a tusk in the bush, there's some very strict laws about ivory possession and what you can do with it. And certainly if you were going to try and take it back to Australia, I think you'd have to fill out about 7 months' worth of paperwork. Let's move up. There we go. How's that, Brian? Now you can see we were talking about the drought a little bit earlier, and we were talking about the fact that all the water holes are drying out. Well, look at this thing. This is becoming a cesspit. And that's just because of the mud, the catfish and their dung. The hippos have been dunging in it. The buffalo. So lots of nutrients in it for algae and that sort of thing. But not great for drinking. So let's see what he does. See if he drinks it. He can drink it if he needs to. But he may just toss some mud all over his body to help with the parasites. You see those birds. There we go. He's digging himself some mud now. This is very special. Very, very special. Ooh. Just get my powerful binoculars out. You see the hammerkorp eating the fish. So, Eliza in Sweden and Stephen. Now that's a hammerkorp there with a fish in his beak that he's trying to sort of break the bones of, and then he'll swallow it. But Eliza and Stephen, you want to know, you say you're enjoying these so much and couldn't they make them a weekly thing? Well, what I suggest you do is tell all your friends to send Nat.Geo Wild thousands of emails requesting just that, and with any luck we'll be able to bring you these things every week. We certainly would love to do that. We enjoy it so very much, and interacting with people around the world while we're looking at Africa's iconic animals like this elephant bull. I mean, look, isn't he just spectacular? Interacting with all of you is a real treat for us. Now that hanging of the trunk over the tusk is a typical thing that bulls and must do. We don't really know why they do it, but it's very common. Isn't that lovely? Kicking mud onto his skin, into his belly. like I say, about 6 tons. Now in pounds, if you're still watching from the States, if you're perhaps snuggled up in the winter in your bed watching us, 6 tons is about 14,000 pounds. So pretty heavy, really. There we go, you see the mud. And he just gives off an atmosphere and energy of frustration about him. That's what these musk bulls do. They just seem to be frustrated, desperately looking for females to mate with, but in a state of kind of irritation and frustration all the time. You saw the way he walked down to the water. He really kind of loped down at a great speed. Well, Joel, you ask a very interesting question all the way from New York, and you say, if he is a must, why doesn't he just go and mate? Well, Joel, you're a man of New York. As you well know, the seduction of ladies is not something one just does. One has to employ various tactics, and the same goes with the elephants. So, you know, if you see something that catches your eye, you're not always guaranteed of success. And the same is the case with elephants. He's got to find himself an estrus female. So a female in estrus in a herd that is susceptible to mating. It's impossible for him to mate with a female that doesn't want to mate with him because of the mechanics of how it works. So his genitalia, his 2-meter long penis, is all internal at the moment. It will obviously come out when the time for mating comes. But the female's opening is right underneath the belly there. And the only way he can mate with her is if she stands still and kind of almost reverses into him. Otherwise, it's impossible. So if she doesn't want to mate, if there isn't a female that wants to mate with him, it becomes impossible for him to actually take his frustration out, I suppose, is the not to put too fine a point on it. But that's one of the reasons, Joel. And of course, all the females are not in estrus all the time. So he's actually got to go from herd to herd, searching for a female that's in estrus. He may also have to fight other bulls for those mating rights. He's pretty big. I think he wouldn't struggle too much if there were other must bulls around. But it's not an easy thing. Thanks, Joel. That was a great question, actually. Nice to liken it to human behavior. It's often so much easier to understand the animals when we can see how familiar some of their behaviors are. And you can just see him there. He looks, you know what he looks like to me? He looks like he's got an itch to scratch, and he just doesn't know how to scratch it. Feet standing like that, one sort of flopped over the other in kind of resting stance. And I don't think it's any coincidence that he's spraying mud into that region of his body. Bryce, thank you for your question. Do they eat mud? No, Bryce, they don't. It's not, and for some of you who are wondering why Bryce is asking that, it's actually quite an astute question. Bryce, they won't eat mud like this, but in dry times when there's no vegetation to eat and very little in the way of grass or leaves or fruit or seeds or pods, they will sometimes chew on soil, Bryce. So they'll find an area that's rich in salts and they'll chew on the soil. And that's a process called geophagia, which means basically earth eating, if you like. And they won't eat mud like this, though. This mud is not full of too many minerals, or I mean, I don't know what it's full of, but it's very stinky. He won't eat this, and you would notice that because if he was eating it, he'd pick it up and put it into his mouth. And what he's doing now is just spraying it all over his body, and a lot on his undercarriage there, where I think he's feeling quite a lot of frustration. There he goes. Look at him, he just looks irritated. He's flapping his eyes around. Sinking into the mud there. They can be quite dangerous for elephants. Not elephants this size, I don't think, but some elephants it certainly can be a bit dangerous. You can hear the birds calling, the ring-necked dove. A little breeze blowing out of the southeast, which is very nice. Just cooling us. It's going to be a hot day today. He seems to be quite satisfied there in his little mud bath. Brian, shall we try and go around a bit? We'll try and get a little bit closer to him. Just get a nicer view. We don't want to disturb him too much, mainly because we don't want to irritate him. He doesn't want to irritate an already irritated elephant. They are large, like you can see. He wants to be very careful when reversing off a precarious damn wall. We're right at that side, Brian. Yep. Oh, he's lying down. We'll quickly get round there. He's laying himself down. We'll go and park under the tree. He's threatened to push over. No, he's got up again. He's kind of sat down like a dog there in the mud. There he is. He's got a magnificent set of ivory on his right-hand side. Just going back to Maggie's question from Australia. Maggie, while rhino poaching is certainly one of our major issues at the moment, certainly in Zimbabwe and East Africa, elephant poaching is a huge issue, and that's why moving ivory around is almost impossible these days. There he goes. Isn't he great? All right, he's going to go wander off into the bush there. I think he'll probably go and find some shade to stand in and doze and have a proper sleep there, and then try and carry on his quest to find some ladies a little bit later in the afternoon. Let's head across to Hayden. He's got some wildebeest for you from the air with Drone Commander Andrew Francis. We're going to continue off to the south, and we'll see you just now.
Another beautiful, beautiful aerial shot of our bush here in Sabi Sands, and we've just got in the middle of the screen there. You can see a wildebeest. I think there might be a few of them there actually in the shade. It's starting to heat up a little bit now, and these wildebeest will be giving birth to their calves in the coming weeks. They'll definitely be dropping many a calf, and that will be they sort of peak in a 3-week period early in the rains, and that gives their calves a great chance to benefit from the nutrients of the mother's milk and the fresh vegetation. And we've got an impala there as well, and we're flying just up over onto Quarantine where we are now. We are on a very open area. You can see how dry it's looking at the moment. I'm absolutely amazed how dry it's gotten over the last week since we've been down for the start of Big Cat Week. It's quite incredible. We're really, there's our tent right there in the middle of the screen, and Drone Commander Andrew Francis flying impeccably as usual. And the dryness is incredible. We really hope for those rains as soon as possible. I just noticed when we were out before, Scotty had that hyena dung, and we've touched on it a few times, but I just wanted to go to the microscope and give you a little look under here at this incredible dung. Now, these animals have an amazing ability to consume those bones and hooves, and really all that's left is the boss and a little bit of the carcass, but most of the bones and things are consumed, and they pass through the system within about 24 hours. It's quite incredible. They really do. They'll eat mummified carcasses, and they'll consume all of those things. Even teeth are digested in about 24 hours. Now, something really interesting about the hyena dung. About 5 years ago, I think it was, there was a cave that was excavated in near Johannesburg by archaeologists, and there was 5 human hairs found in some fossilized hyena dung. And it's dated around 200,000 years old, and it's the oldest human hair, fossilized human hair ever found. That was just in a cave outside of Johannesburg. So interesting stuff. So dung can give us loads of information, and you can never get tired of a good bit of poop. Right, let's cross over to Scotty and see what he's up to.
Can we come out? Listen to the incredible shrill coming from this acacia tree and the cicadas or cicadas within it. They are these insects you're looking at that have an incredible drum-like structure called a tympanum with a muscle that's attached to the center of it. And what they'll do is they'll expand and contract that muscle, causing the drum to reverberate at very, very high repetitions. And it's just the males that have this ability to pull on the drum, and the females will therefore be attracted to their calls by ears which are under their abdomen. So quite a strange position for an ear, but that's where the ears of the cicadas are found. And what's crazy is that this little animal could be older than 10 years of age. They will spend the majority of their life in nymph form before hatching out into adults and then becoming winged insects that can fly around from A to B. So at the moment, the noise you can hear is males desperately trying to seduce the females. And we've got some great news that's just come through on the radio. Peter's found the ground hornbill, in all likelihood the same ones we were looking at a bit earlier, and hopefully you'll be able to get some better views with him.
Welcome to something very special. Saw little bits of it earlier on the walk. Just found this one. Now, normally ground hornbill are in small groups of sort of 3 to 5 individuals. But this is a beautiful specimen, very healthy. I guess would be a dominant male in the group, even though I can't see the rest of the group. Really hoping we could see more of them, but this was just very lucky. He's going to go into some thick stuff now. We'll try and get another look, but sometimes they're a little bit shy. This is a very special bird to see. Yeah, let's try a little bit more. In Afrikaans, we call ground hornbills bromvoël. And the bromvoël directly translated means a roaring bird. Because in the distance, sometimes early morning, when you hear them calling, it can sound like lions from far away. I think we've got a question or two. It'll be nice to go through them. We're going to try and get another view, but I can't promise. There we go, there we go. Maybe. Let's see if he walks into the open, a little bit of luck, and we'll get to that question for you. Now he's going to try and avoid us. So this is a bit of a sort of a cat and mouse game, if you want. Just the question there is going to be our last view. Ah, beautiful. He's just picked up an insect there as well. Beautiful. Pitch black bird. Obviously that bright scarlet around the face and the neck. And Cindy was just asking just now, how big are these birds? And the best comparison would be a turkey for you guys. Very similar to turkeys, a little bit, how shall I put it, slightly more athletic perhaps. Keep in mind, I haven't seen too many turkeys other than the cooked version in my life. Turkey's not really a common thing here in southern Africa at all in the wild. You don't get turkeys in the wild, but even for consumption, we don't really know turkeys that well. Let's move back a little bit. I don't think we're going to see more of the hornbill this afternoon. Hopefully there'll be lots happening. And from myself, Peter, it's been a great drive. Thanks for joining us. And you're going to go and spend some time with James and that monster elephant. Enjoy it. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
We've left him and we've come across here and moved to a totally different area, and he's just coming towards us. Now we are on a boundary. I'm not going to hang around if he starts to get upset with us, but let's just see what he does. Large musk bull elephant, and this is, he's now 20 feet from us. incredible. All right, Brian? This is unbelievable. I'm just going to be very quiet. See? It's just unbelievable, everyone. This is the most spectacular experience. How are you feeling, Brian? In one word. Fantastic. There he goes. He's heading off on one of those game paths that you would have seen from the drone. And you can see why they've been worn. All right, everybody. We're going to see you this afternoon, 4 o'clock. Thank you very much to everyone who's been with us and asked us questions and interacted. Thanks, Brian. Thank you, Final Control, and Peter and Scott on the bushwalk and everyone involved. See you later. Bye-bye.